Shalom from Israel to all of Daystar viewers around the world. I am Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible, when David said in Psalm 43:3, "O send out your light and your truth. Let them lead us. Let them bring us to your holy hill and to your tabernacle." And God says in Zechariah 8:31, "I will return to Zion and dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall be called the city of truth, the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain." Always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free. John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner.
In our top story, the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia has declared war on Christianity in the Middle East. One of Islam's most influential religious leaders has called on all Muslims to destroy every church in the Middle East. The Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Abdul Aziz bin Abdullah, preached to his followers about a fundamental Muslim teaching which holds that Islam can be the only religion of the Arabian Peninsula. He concluded his message calling on all of his followers to take action. He said it is now necessary to destroy all churches in this region.
4 Jews were killed and 5 others injured when a gunman opened fire with an automatic weapon at a Jewish school in Toulouse, France. An assailant on a motorcycle opened fire into a crowd of children at the Ozar HaTorah school just before morning classes began. Rabbi Jonathan Sandler, his 3-year-old and 6-year-old sons, and an 8-year-old little girl were killed in the rampage. French prosecutor Michel Vallet said that the gunman shot everything in front of him, children and adults. Israel's foreign ministry released a statement expressing horror at the attack, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu commented that while he has yet to hear any condemnation of the heinous murder from the United Nations, he was shocked that the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva had extended an invitation to a senior member of Hamas to address the council on the same day of all days.
A field officer for the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has once again engaged in blatant anti-Israel activism. Hulud Badawi, an Israeli Arab, made international news this week for using her Twitter account name, Long Live Palestine, to tweet a picture of a Palestinian child covered in blood with the caption, "Palestine is bleeding, another child killed by Israel, another father carrying a child to a grave in Gaza." The Twitter message, which claimed that the girl was killed by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza, became an instant hit and was circulated throughout the world. Israel has exposed the lie, proving that the picture was actually taken by Reuters in the year 2006. The girl was not killed by the Israeli Defense Forces, but according to the initial report, the child had died in a car accident. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations wrote a letter demanding that Badawi be terminated from her position. He said that Ms. Badawi had violated several UN charters and was actively engaging in the demonization of Israel. This is the second time that Hulud Badawi has taken part in events that violate UN regulations. In 2008, she was filmed leading a march in Gaza, chanting derogatory messages about Israel and Defense Minister Ehud Barak. The United Nations Under-Secretary General Valerie Amos released a statement saying that it is regrettable that the OCHA staff member has posted information on her personal Twitter profile, which is both false and which reflects on issues that are related to her work. Other than this statement, the United Nations has made no other attempts to address the situation.
A double suicide car bombing in Damascus killed 27 people and injured more than 140 others in the Syrian capital of Damascus. 2 vehicles packed with explosives targeted a police station and an air security intelligence center. The explosions came as the country marked 1 year since the start of the uprising, which has claimed the lives of more than 8,000 people. Syrian state media called the bombings acts of terrorism, while the Syrian Writers' Union blamed the United States, the Zionists, and Arab reactionary forces. United Nations and Arab League Special Envoy to Syria, Kofi Annan, has presented Syrian President Bashar al-Assad with a 6-point peace proposal But Annan has received no sign of compliance from the Assad regime. Annan now intends to dispatch a delegation to Damascus in an attempt to jumpstart the negotiations.
As tensions increase between Israel and Iran, Jews in both countries are expressing concern for the Jews living in Iran. The Jewish community of Persia, one of the oldest centers of Judaism in the world, has historical roots which date back 2,700 years. The prophet Daniel and Queen Esther are both buried in Iran. Although the majority of Iranian Jews have fled the increasingly anti-Semitic country, there are still about 25,000 Jews living in the hardline Islamic Republic. Iran boasts tolerance for the minority group, which keeps a very low profile, but an Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear program could put them in jeopardy. The state has preserved the tombs of Daniel and Queen Esther, and Jews are allowed to visit the sites regularly. However, a group of Iranian students recently threatened to destroy Esther's tomb, and tensions between the Jews of Iran and their countrymen are increasing. Camille Pinchasi, editor of Israel's only Persian newspaper, says Iran's government is unstable and unpredictable. If there is a war, you cannot predict what the response to the Jewish community will be.
Arabs from across the Middle East are planning a protest march to Jerusalem. Scheduled to take place on March 30th, convoys from Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, and the Palestinian territories are planning to storm the Israeli border. Simultaneous demonstrations are also slated to be held at Israeli embassies throughout Europe. Organizers say that their goal is to protest the Judaization of Jerusalem by staging a mass march to the Holy City. Israeli security will be heightened to ensure that the nation's borders are not breached and that the protests within Israel remain peaceful. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad endorsed the campaign during a meeting with participants of the march, where he told them that Jews have no right to live in any part of the land of Israel.
A high-ranking officer in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has urged the Afghani people to fight American forces. General Masoud Jazayeri, who is also deputy head of Iran's Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that there is a strong indication that the Afghans will soon open new fronts against the obsolete, worn-out American empire, and that Afghanis should use force to kick the Americans out of their country. Iran is suspected of arming Afghan militants who have attacked U.S. troops in the region.
The United Nations barred senior Hamas member Ismail al-Ashkar from addressing the 19th session of the Human Rights Council in Geneva following widespread pressure from the United States and Israel. According to reports, al-Ashkar planned to accuse Israel of abducting members of his organization and holding them hostage. Israel has arrested members of Hamas for their roles in terrorist activity, and many are serving prison sentences in Israeli jails. Both Israel and the United States consider Hamas to be a terror organization and have voiced criticism that the Human Rights Council consistently promotes an anti-Israel agenda, with total disregard of major human rights violations around the world, including several of its member states. According to Israel's Minister of Infrastructure, Uzi Landau, water will eventually be more valuable than oil. After attending the 6th World Water Forum in France, Landau said that after 7 years of regional drought, a regular water supply is not something to be taken for granted. With the growth in the population and the rise for the need of fresh water, this resource in the Middle East will soon become more valuable than oil. Israeli water technology is at the forefront of the world's quest to create more clean water. According to the president of Veolia Water, Antoine Frérot, Israel is a great place to find collaboration in the fields of water and energy, and his company intends to pursue future ventures with Israel.
The Israeli Defense Forces are testing a new homegrown technology which can literally pull drinking water out of thin air. WaterGen, an Israeli high-tech firm, has developed a system that can extract clean drinking water from the air, even in desert climates. This ingenious system, which can be attached to any tank or armored vehicle, can produce up to 16 gallons of drinking water per day by drawing water from the ambient humidity in the air. The air enters the system full of humidity. The water is then extracted and the air discarded. The water is filtered, mineralized to the standards of the World Health Organization, and then cooled. The end product is clean, cold drinking water for soldiers in the field. According to the United States Army, it is dangerous and expensive to transport water in conflict zones. It costs between $5 and $30 to deliver 1 gallon of drinking water to troops on the front line in Afghanistan. The water gin can eliminate the cost and danger of providing water to troops in the field. The possibilities for water gin are limitless. There's a larger unit that can provide 55 gallons of drinking water per day. Avi Kochavi, developer of the water gin system, said it could give organizations like the United Nations a better way to provide water to disaster zones and to the poor in remote areas.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and this is the second week in a row we got rained out of our rooftop studio, so keep those prayers coming. Our guest today is Nadav Kidron, the director of Israel Innovations Project. Nadav, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Josh, for having me.
Nadav, tell us a little bit about what is the Israel Innovations Project?
Well, the Israel Innovation Project is basically a very interesting presentation, interactive presentation that tells the story of the nice side of Israel. It tells a story about the technologies that came out of Israel from the past, from the present, and what are we expecting to see in the future.
Well, Nadav, what led you to design this program? It's something obviously that's interest to a lot of people, but what led you to take this on the road?
Well, I travel often as part of my job, and wherever I go around the world, people always talk to me about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. 3 years ago, our company, Oramed, was chosen to be part of the President Conference, where they showcased 60 companies out of Israel that will change the face of tomorrow. And when I went around and I saw those companies, and I said to myself, oh my God, I mean, you see all these innovations, you see all these great ideas, and somehow when I talk to people outside of Israel, they only talk to me about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. How can I bridge that gap? So I said, instead of waiting for the government to do what they have to do, let me create my own initiative, and that's how this whole program came about.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that Israel is cutting edge when it comes to technology. I believe the statistics are that the number one place for R&D in the world is Israel. We're the number 2 manufacturers of computer chips. 25% of our exports are ideas, basic concepts and technologies. How is our technologies around the world transforming the world when it comes to different technological aspirations?
Well, the answer is actually amazing. We don't understand, or many of us do not understand, how many of the basic things that we use actually being developed in Israel. I mean, I can give you some examples.
Please.
But you know, whether you start with a cell phone or with the voice messaging on the cell phone, you know, whether even chips of companies that are not necessarily Israeli companies, such as Intel, you know, that some of their processors were developed in Israel, or maybe some of the stuff that was done by Microsoft, that was done by Microsoft Israel. A lot of the stuff that we don't even realize were actually developed and invented in Israel.
Well, one of the areas that we're very involved in is biotechnologies. I believe the CAT scan was invented in Israel and many more. Can you tell us a little about some of the technologies coming out of the medical field?
Well, out of the medical field, there's a lot of things that are coming out. I'll give you one interesting story. There's a company called Giving Imaging, and the founder of the companies is a good friend of mine, and he told me they came up with the idea that instead of doing endoscopia, they will give people a pill that has a camera in it, and by doing so, you can overcome the need to do the invasive...
The colonoscopy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he said when he came to investors in the US, and he said, this is the idea, people told him, listen, we don't do science fiction, you know, go look for someone else. And today it's a company that sells for tens of millions of dollars, you know, a year, and it's a very successful company, but it's because the entrepreneurs that started it, they had that vision that they could imagine how this thing will work at the end of the day.
Well, you're not just someone who goes around and talks about other people's technologies. You actually developed your own technology, and you're the CEO of Oramed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Oramed has a technology that enables us to take injections and to give them and deliver them orally. So our leading product is insulin. So diabetics can take insulin orally. But it's a platform. We can use it for many other things. Imagine, for example, flu vaccine. You can take the Oramed's platform and give the flu vaccine as a pill instead of an injection. Now, what it means is it's not only it's an advantage from the patient's compliance point of view, but also the overall cost for society can be reduced drastically.
Well, I know my children would like that. They don't like getting the needles at the doctor offices. Tell us, what do you think is going to happen in the future as we develop these technologies in bio and high tech? How is that going to change the world?
Well, I think Israel is standing and has been standing in many challenging positions. You know, we know what's going on the political level, and it's not easy times. But I think there's a very strong drive here. And whenever I go to conferences here and whenever I'm being exposed to business plans of companies, I think this movement of creativity, of innovations, of the ability to change the world out of Zion is just going to become stronger and stronger. And as days will pass by, you know, Israel will be able to influence the world to be a better place thanks to that innovation that's coming out of here.
Well, of course, we're called to be a light unto other nations, and through our technologies we have been. How is this helping Israel economically?
Well, it's fascinating. If you're going to look at some of the recent figures that were published, you'll see that Israel has got the highest influence of its GDP coming out of high tech. You're talking about 4.6%, where in countries like the United States it's around 1%. So Israel is what it is, a stable country and with a bright future, mainly because of that innovation.
Nadav, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show today. What message would you have for our viewers?
Well, Israel is known for its beautiful sceneries, wonderful people, and the place where all religions started, but it has much more than that. I want the viewers to know that Israel has exciting businesses that are going on here, and you're welcome to explore and to see how you can get part of this land by being part of the business community that's creating a new world, not only for us in Israel, but for the entire world.
Nadav, thank you for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, Shining Light from Israel.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come visit Capernaum, where Jesus restored a paralytic's helpless legs. Sail the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on the water. Stroll through the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus healed a servant's ear. To learn more about standing where it all happened, in Israel, visit www.goisrael.com. Come visit Israel.
You'll never be the same.
This is Janet. Janet's favorite color is green. In her spare time, she enjoys playing the piano, online shopping, and the poetry of William Shakespeare. This is David. His favorite color is yellow. Some of his hobbies include photography, soccer, Israel, and Israel. Normally, these two would never meet. In fact, they probably never will. And yet, all over the world, every day, people like Janet are being informed and empowered to learn more about Israel by people like David. In the past, our tools of communication were pretty limited. But today, we live in a different world, one with a vast global network of social communication. It works like this. David has friends. Those friends have friends. And those well, you get the picture. David shares something interesting he's just heard. His friends share it with their friends, and they in turn pass it on. Because who better to suggest something you may like than your friends? This is an incredibly powerful way of communicating and can be used to transmit anything, from the silly to the serious. We now live in a world where an idea can be spread with just one click.
United with Israel is actually the world's first global movement for Israel. In just 1 year, we've become Israel's most powerful and effective PR tool. Through the use of social media, we've managed to create a global network of millions of pro-Israel activists. And we're just getting started. Our reach extends not only to those who are already strong supporters of Israel, but to their friends, acquaintances, and even family members who are being exposed to positive messages from Israel for the very first time. Now more than ever, we need to spread the truth about Israel to the entire world. The people that hate Israel are not going to be reached. The people that love Israel don't need to be reached. The people in the middle need to be reached. But how can we do it when lies about Israel are being spread daily through the mainstream media? When anything coming from the government of Israel is immediately branded as propaganda, and when many well-meaning pro-Israel organizations are only preaching to the choir and not to the masses. People trust one source more than any other. They trust their friends. This is the world of social media today. We want to reach people, we have to speak their language. As with every technology, social media can be used to build and to destroy. Let's use social media to build global support for Israel. We can build a massive global network of Israel supporters, one friend at a time. We may be divided by our location, religion, or political views, but we are all united with Israel.
I'm united with Israel.
Ich bin für und mit Israel.
I am united with Israel.
I am united with Israel.
I am united with Israel.
I am united.
I am united.
I am united with Israel.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem.
What makes the miracles of Jesus even more miraculous? Standing where they happened, in Israel. Come explore Jerusalem, where Jesus opened blind eyes. Visit the hills of Galilee, where Jesus fed the multitude. Stroll through Capernaum, where Jesus lived and taught and healed. To learn more about standing where it all happened in Israel, visit www.goisrael.com. Come visit Israel.
You'll never be the same.
We are here outside the International Convention Center in Jerusalem. It is here where the International Christian Embassy presents every year the Feast of Tabernacles celebration. The Feast of Tabernacle has become a wonderful celebration of exciting worship and of the teaching of the Word of God here in the city of the Great King. Every year, thousands of Christians come to Jerusalem to celebrate with us this exciting Feast of Tabernacles.
One of the most amazing aspects of the Feast of Tabernacles celebration is to see so many nations coming up to Jerusalem every year to worship the Lord. The psalmist declared in Psalm 86, verse 9, "All nations whom you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord, and shall glorify your name." As the creative and music director for the ICEJ, I have the privilege and blessing of working with an international team of volunteers, from musicians to singers to dancers, seamstresses, and technical and stage production personnel. Each of these people have a passion to worship the Lord and to glorify the name of Jesus. And it's always our hope and our prayer that the Lord will use us during the feast to lead the pilgrims who come into the presence of the Lord, and also to be a vehicle where the Holy Spirit can meet each person in their place of need. There are many opportunities to serve with us as volunteers during the feast, and if you're interested, you can find more information and even an online application via the ICEJ website.
This year's Feast of Tabernacle will take place from the 30th of September to the 4th of October. And I personally would like to invite you to join us for this exciting conference in Jerusalem. Find out more on our website, and tour options are available through the offices of our national branches around the world. I believe this year's Feast of Tabernacles will be a life-changing experience for you and for your family. Therefore, please prayerfully consider to join us at the Feast of Tabernacle in this year here in Jerusalem. May the Lord bless you out of Zion.
Now available from our online web store, the 2011 Feast of Tabernacles Highlights DVD. This wonderful 90-minute video captures highlights from the worship and teaching of the 2011 Feast of Tabernacles. Visit www.icej.tv for more details.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner. Please join us again next week for all your Israel updates.